If you've been planning a move to Austin, Texas, naturally you have been doing your homework. And if you've been doing your homework, naturally as well, you have stumbled upon some hotspots within the greater Austin area. And one of those, if not the hottest spot in all of the greater Austin, Texas area is going to be Leander, Texas. And so in this video, we are going to talk about Leander, Texas and go over the 5 things you must know before potentially relocating there. If that's the information you're after, stay tuned. Hey again everybody, this is Frank with the Living in Austin group at eXp Realty. Every week we put out new content about living in Austin, Texas, the good and the bad, so consider subscribing if you haven't already, and ring that little bell to get notified whenever we put out a new video. We also love the reach outs we get now all the time from people just like you in need of our help when relocating to Austin, Texas, so keep them coming, don't hesitate, whether you're 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team, whether you shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call, any day of the week, any time of day. So yes, in this video we are revisiting the subject of Leander, Texas. And granted, in the past 6 months ago, 9 months ago, 12 months ago, well over a year ago, we have made videos talking about Leander, Texas. So in this one, it is going to be a bit more on the short side, a bit more on the brief side, as we have covered a lot of it already. However, with a lot of those videos being older and it now being June of 2022, we thought we'd make something current and make something fresh regarding Leander, Texas. So for starters, I wrote down location as one of the 5 things you must know before relocating. While it is obvious, let me explain why that is. So in our experience, a majority of the people that we've helped move here, that we've helped close on their homes, most of the time are doing so because of work, whether they're going to be working from home, relocating since the pandemic, a lot of people wanting to just upsize or move across the country, or they're relocating to literally work at a place in the greater Austin area for their jobs, especially with all the companies coming here. So the location of Leander, Texas is going to be northwest of downtown. And so if you are going to be relocating to the greater Austin area and say are going to be working a corporate job downtown, that commute can easily look like, I'd say, between 30 and 40 minutes roughly. Now, sometimes with zero traffic, if you speed a little bit, you can get there in maybe 25 minutes. However, if you're going at peak rush hour and it's just bumper to bumper and you're crawling, it could take north of 45 minutes, maybe sometimes 50. But those are extreme cases. I'd say on average, usually between 30 and 40. Now, in addition to that, a majority of people who come here for work are doing so for those tech jobs. And while there are plenty of tech jobs in downtown Austin, I would say a majority of them are in what we would call the tech hub of North Austin. So the proximity from North Austin to the Leander, Texas area, thankfully, is going to be, I'd say, roughly between 15 and 25 minutes, with the same disclaimers I mentioned before regarding potential traffic or zero traffic. If you speed from Leander to, say, the Domain area, that could be with no traffic as easy as 10 or 15 minutes. But then again, at its absolute worst, it could be 20 to 30 minutes. So depending on who you are, that could be a breath of fresh air, or that could be a bit of a hang up. You know, some people are coming from the Bay areas of the world where they had to commute well over an hour just to get to work. Other people work from home. Other people maybe work just around the corner. They're used to 5 or 10 minute drive. So I can't say whether that's good or bad. It does depend on your own background and what your situation is. But regarding the location of Leander, Texas, I would say most people are quite content with that. It's not the worst case, end of the world, hell of a commute. So assuming you want to go there and bring your family and all of that, it would make a lot of sense. But then again, if you're working from home, no need to worry. Up next, we're going to talk about Northline. And before we can really get into the thick of Northline, we have to talk about the Domain. So many of you might already be familiar with a place called the Domain in the greater Austin area, specifically in North Austin near that tech hub. However, if you're not familiar, so the Domain is really a giant shopping center, and it took eons to complete, really. It started, I would say, in 2007 as a place that had H&M, as a place that had Zara, as a place that had Nordstrom and things like that. And then over time, restaurants came, theaters came, and then eventually a bar strip came with clubs and rooftop scenarios and hookah lounges. And so by now, with offices and apartments, the Domain is not just a shopping center, but it has evolved into a community where a lot of people live, do their groceries. There's the Whole Foods there, there's parking garages, the Apple Store, where people like to go out on Fridays and Saturdays, obviously. And so that is a destination in the greater Austin area. A lot of times if you want to go out, you're between downtown or the Domain. That is how high ranking it is. And so why is that relevant to Leander? Well, Leander is getting what many people have dubbed the Domain Part 2, which is going to be called Northline, essentially transforming what has otherwise for a long time just been a calm, quiet, sleepy, safe suburb of Leander, Texas, turning that into a new hub. And so depending on what you're looking for, that could be bad news because you might want a calm, quiet, tranquil, safe place that is unbothered and, the definition of suburbia. But with a place like Northline, it is going to turn Leander, Texas into something that it's not, or that it hasn't been. So that might be right for you. You might enjoy to see more diversity. You might enjoy to see a higher influx of people. And to have a lot of things to do. But on the flip side, if you don't want to deal with traffic, nor if you want to deal with rapid appreciation, if you're pricing Leander, Texas, and it just keeps going up quicker in price than a lot of these other suburbs, that could absolutely be a turnoff. However, if you're going to be a homeowner and we're talking equity, that is quite the victory, especially if you're an investor. Otherwise, it might not be right for you. And the thing about Northline is it's not like they're just going to complete it in a couple years and it'll be done. Like the Domain, which was basically a 10-year project from start to finish, the Northline is really going to be no different. So even if a lot of it's already finished, construction is going to be a thing there for quite a while until they finish phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, so on and so forth. Moving right along, we are now going to talk about the affordability and how it's tied to new construction regarding Leander, Texas. And so here's the interesting thing. In a lot of the past videos that we made about Leander, Texas, the median home price at some points was $400 and then $420 and then maybe $460. But as it currently stands in June of 2022, it is looking like around $550,000. Some sources saying $565, some sources saying $525. Figure we'll just meet right in the middle. Either way, it is well over $500,000 by now. In a matter of months, I believe it was up 27% year to date. That is rapid appreciation. And while yes, Austin, Texas as a whole is getting much more expensive, I would argue that a lot of the other towns and suburbs and cities within the greater Austin area are, yes, appreciating, but not nearly as rapidly or quickly as Leander, Texas, which is why we call it such a hotspot or a boom town. And so one of the reasons this is that Leander, Texas for a long time, or actually I take that back, Leander, Texas recently, especially the past few years, which has felt like a long time, has always had an abundance of new build construction homes. And that is what's attractive to a lot of people relocating to Texas. Sure, in a lot of ways it is easier or safer or quicker to just do a pre-owned home. And that's a lot of people's tastes and great. But truth of the matter is, and I can't blame them, a lot of people coming to Texas, it's a fresh start. They want something brand spanking new. They want it, their own space, a whole lot, everything like that. So they go for the new construction. So where that gets interesting is, and what makes it attractive is that a lot of new build homes are not going to be bidding wars, such as what you'll find in previously owned homes. In this market, people are a little bit afraid of that competition. So in a lot of these new construction situations, it's first come, first serve, or you're on a waiting list, things like that. And so when that's the case, it's kind of like the Wild West. A lot of these builders, because of the demand, can kind of in some way, shape, or form name their price as demand fluctuates. And so, if a lot of people are trying to get into a particular neighborhood or a particular floor plan, every time a new round of inventory comes out, if it wasn't 500 before, or if it was 500 before, now it's going to be 550 or 600. And they can do that because people are going to buy it. And so I think with all of the new construction that we have in Leander, Texas, that is absolutely having to do with the rapid appreciation that we're seeing. Now, a downside to that as well is, let's say you do lock in a home at a price that is, say, $600,000. That's not going to change if you put down your deposit and you go under contract. But another thing that's making it kind of muddy is interest rates, with how they're fluctuating and going up and down, but in most cases up. That interest rate is only going to be set by the time you close. So if there is a 5% interest rate when you go under contract, it might be 6 by the time you close and sort out your lending and go with the mortgages and figure that stuff out. So that could be a difference of several grand extra every single year. And so that's the thing with new construction. We all want it. I can't blame you, but it is feeding into the appreciation of Leander, and it is making things kind of tricky for people who want to buy a house in Leander, Texas. Keeping it moving once again, another thing that you must know before potentially relocating to Leander, Texas is the subject of things to do. So yes, I touched on the brand new shopping center called Northline in Leander, Texas. However, as that is currently in progress and as that will take an abundance of years to complete, the question remains, what is there to do in Leander, Texas right now as it currently stands as of the making of this video? And the answer is not that much. And here's the thing. Of course, with suburbia, it is fair to assume that it is going to be suburbia. That's what you're paying for. That's what you're looking for. It's kind of like stating the obvious that it's not going to have a lot of things to do. However, I am speaking to a lot of people who have reached out to us and are thinking, well, I like X, Y, and Z places. What is there to do there? It's still a question. Like, you want suburbia, but part of you also wants to not be bored out of your mind. And so in the case of Leander, Texas, I'm not saying there's nothing to do, but aside from your grocery stores, aside from your schools, aside from maybe a few parks and some nature spots, it really is just quiet. There isn't too much to do. And again, that could be very attractive for some of you, but it could be a turnoff. And then again, to remind you, if you do want something to do and you're going, say, downtown Austin, which is the place to go if you want something to do, then again, you're looking at a drive of maybe 30 to 40 minutes, if not more, whenever you want to get out of suburbia and entertain yourself or your family. Now, real quickly before moving on, drop a comment down below for us to get involved in. If we've been providing any value for you, consider liking the video as well. Remember to subscribe and share it with anybody you know who's wanting to learn more about living in Austin, Texas. Okay, lastly, regarding the 5 things you must know before moving to Leander, Texas, we have the subject of schools. And chances are you're looking at Leander, Texas in the first place because of the schools. But just in case you're not part of that demographic of people who are doing that extensive homework, something to know about Leander, Texas is that it really is centered and catered around schools. They will build neighborhood master plan communities around schools. They will build grocery stores and shopping centers around the schools. And that is simply because when it comes to the greater Austin area, there are a handful of districts that are top tier, and one of those is going to be Leander, Texas. And so that and the Round Rock Independent School Districts each serve between 30 and 40,000 students. Whereas the other top tier districts are going to be maybe 10,000 students, maybe 5,000 students, maybe 20,000 students. So they are going to be smaller. And while they will maintain great graduation rates and SAT scores, etc., it's impressive that such powerhouse districts that have so many students also maintain such superb statistics. And so people like that about Leander and Round Rock Independent School District, because a lot of these other places, as mentioned, are primarily for very wealthy areas like the Westlake Hills and the Eanes Independent School District, with homes that are on average $2 million. And so a lot of people don't have $2 million to spend, but they want their kids to go to some of the best schools regardless. And so you look north towards Leander or Round Rock. So that's just something to keep in mind. Leander, Texas is a place of families. It is suburbia, again, as mentioned, not to be redundant. And so if you're looking for a place, maybe you're a young professional or a first-time home buyer, or it's just you and your partner, or maybe you're an empty nester or something like that, you're retiring, it is going to be a place that is predominantly about schools, at least until Northline gets completed one of these years. So keep that in mind. It might work for you, it might not, but the more you know. So there you have it. For many reasons, Leander, Texas might be perfect for you, or for many reasons, Leander, Texas just might not be the right fit. And if it's not, maybe you want Dripping Springs, maybe you want the Westlake Hills, maybe you want Bee Cave, Texas, maybe you want Kyle or Buda, Hutto or Maine, or anything in between. That is what we are here for, helping people just like you relocate to Austin, Texas, making that move as smooth as possible and getting those offers accepted. But the only way we can do that is, again, by you reaching out to us. So don't hesitate, reach out to our team, whether you shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. We've got your back when moving to Austin, Texas. And once again, every week we put out new content about living in Austin, Texas, the good and the not so good. So remember to subscribe if you haven't already and ring that little bell to get notified whenever we put out a new video. Comment down below, like the video if we've been providing any value for you. Share it with anybody you know. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas, and we will absolutely catch you later.